Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are immersing ourselves in the aesthetic world of a towering, yet a profoundly rebellious figure of 19th century literature, Théophile Gautier.
It's going to be a fascinating one.
It really is. And this dive isn't just about reading his dazzling stories, it's about getting under the hood, really understanding the philosophy that drove him,
Yeah.
this transgressive function of the fantastic, and how he used desire and death to, well, to re-engineer reality itself.
And we've got two perfect case studies for that today. We're focusing on La Morte amoureuse and Nuit de Cléopâtre.
Exactly. We're looking for the shortcuts, the keys to understanding why Gautier was so revolutionary in his time.
I think it's a crucial dive, really, for anyone interested in how modern art, emerged from the constraints of Romanticism. Gautier didn't just write novels. He was actively shaping a whole new doctrine.
A doctrine that was pretty controversial.
Oh, absolutely. What's so fascinating is that he views literature not as a vehicle for, say, political change or moral instruction, but as an end unto itself. The fantastic for him becomes the primary tool to kickstart a purely aesthetic revolution.
Okay, let's set the stage a bit more for that.
Yeah.
So Gautier is a foundational figure of Romanticism, known as a literary critic. He championed Balzac and Hugo, but also as a poet and novelist. But he broke from his peers in a really fundamental way. What was that central conflict, that aesthetic divide?
It all comes down to that famous phrase, l'art pour l'art, art for art's sake.
Right.
The prevailing thought at the time, for many of his contemporaries, was that art should have a pedagogical and popular value. It needed to do something.
It had to have a job.
It had to have a job, to instruct, to uplift, to comment on the big political shifts. Gautier he rejects this completely and dramatically. He believes the sole irreducible value of a work of art is in the aesthetic experience itself. Beauty doesn't need a moral alibi.
The beauty is the justification.
Exactly. He was just unapologetically dedicated to style, to form, and artistic representation above everything else.
That sounds incredibly radical, especially in a century so obsessed with social progress and politics. So if he throws out the moral purpose, what purpose does he give to his favorite tool, the fantastic?
He weaponizes it. He uses the fantastic mode as a powerful revolutionary tool. And we really have to differentiate this from, say, his predecessors.
Like Novier.
Like Nodier, exactly. Gautier was definitely inspired by him, but Nodier often layered the supernatural or the dreamlike over a social or political backdrop. The fantastic was often a commentary on history or, an escape from a turbulent world.
So he was still using fantasy to make a point about the real world.
Precisely. Gautier strips all of that away. The political weight is gone. His fantastic elements, the delirium, the hallucination, the phantasmagoria, they are deployed strictly to transgress the boundaries of conventional oppressive normality.
So the dream isn't an escape anymore.
It's a critique. The madness is proof that the apparent sanity of the world is a lie. It's there to expose the limits and the deep contradictions of what seems to be an ordered moral life.
And crucially, this doesn't happen randomly. His stories, especially La Morte amoureuse, are built on this remarkably rigid, almost fixed narrative structure. Let's lay that out, because it really dictates the whole trajectory of desire and defeat in his work.
It's the engine of his stories, this fixed schema. It's designed for the maximum possible clash between restriction and liberation. So part one is always the reassuring scene.
Okay.
The character is grounded, they're bound by unbreakable rules, social, religious, whatever. In La Morte amoureuse, this is the young priest, Romuald, totally committed to his sacred vows.
Then comes the explosion.
Then comes the catastrophic disruption, the perturbing element. It's an extraordinary event, usually triggered by a single, powerful sensory input. A look, an object, a smell, and it just shatters reality. This shock immediately activates all the long-suppressed, forbidden desires. It's the eruption of everything the character has repressed.
And the third part, the inevitable come down, the return to order.
The return to order. The protagonist is yanked back into their initial constrained reality, and the powerful transgression is revealed to have existed only as an illusion, a beautiful dream. And this is where Gautier makes his philosophical point.
Which is what?
That art exists to reconfigure life based on desire. The true life, the life of color and sensation and beauty that's in the dream. But, and this is the tragedy, the dream can't sustain itself in reality. Reality always wins, leaving only the memory of the beautiful illusion.
Okay, let's dive into La Morte amoureuse, where the schema just plays out with devastating psychological force. We meet Romuald, the protagonist, and he is the perfect embodiment of that initial reassuring scene.
He's designed to be a blank slate, which makes the eruption of desire all the more shocking. I mean, the text tells us he's a man without passion, a projection of anxiety and repression.
He's lived this totally sheltered life.
A long novitiate, yeah. Up to age 24, leading to what Gautier calls an innocence parfaite, a perfect innocence. But it's a fragile innocence. It's not virtue, it's just untested repression. He's neatly packed away all his natural human impulses, believing he's an angel walking toward his divine calling. He has zero psychological framework to process real worldly desire.
And he's genuinely happy about it. He feels joy, impatience, pride as he walks toward the altar for his ordination. He's reaching the absolute peak of his perceived reality.
And that is precisely when the perturbing element has to strike.
The crisis is triggered by something so simple, a gaze.
The most elemental human act. He accidentally lifts his head, which he's supposed to keep down, and he sees Clarimonde across the balustrade. The description of this moment it's just visceral. Gautier writes it's like scales falling from his eyes, like a blind man suddenly regaining sight. The shift is instant and it's total.
And his reality immediately disintegrates.
It's an incredible piece of writing. The venerable bishop, this symbol of absolute divine authority, is suddenly extinguished. The candles pale like the stars at morning, and the whole church just plunges into complete obscurity.
But she's shining.
But Clarimonde, this woman, she's the epicenter of a new, profane revelation. She seems to be éclairée d'elle-même, self-illuminated. His pious reality goes dark. His forbidden desire just explodes in light.
And this is a critical tell from Gautier, right? He's signaling that we are leaving objective reality behind.
Absolutely. We are now in the world of subjective, illusory perception. Our sources point out his very specific language here. He uses words like pareva and sembrava, it seemed, or it appeared, to describe her. He meticulously avoids saying era, it was.
He's constantly reminding you this is a projection.
It's all a projection. She's distant, yet she seems close, a classic spatial dislocation of hallucination. And she's radiating this magnificence regale, this regal magnificence that's in such stark contrast to his simple clerical robes.
So let's unpack that projection. Clarimonde is the ultimate femme fatale, basically constructed from everything his chaste life denies.
Her description is just a catalog of visual details designed to embody prohibited pleasure. Take her eyes. They're sea green, vert de mer, with this unsustainable, almost metallic brilliance. And he explicitly says they're like arrows heading straight for his heart. This isn't just attraction, it's a wound, a penetration.
And then there are her teeth.
Ah, yes. Her teeth, described as being of the stupendo oriente, the splendid orient.
Okay, so why is that reference to the E's so critical here?
It's an immediate, powerful aesthetic code in 19th century literature. The Orient represented everything the restrictive, moralizing West was not.
Freedom, sensuality.
Exactly. Opulence, a lack of moral constraint. By giving her teeth of the stupende oriente, Gautier is signaling that Clarimonde represents a freer, more pulsional nature, an entirely unrepressed appetite that just cannot exist in Romuald's world of Western piety. The whole package screams diabolical seduction.
And this intense feeling, it spirals pretty quickly beyond just temptation into something much more debilitating.
It does. Gautier is tapping into a recognized psychological phenomenon of the time. The sheer, overwhelming power of this one forbidden image just saturates Romuald's mind, causing what Balzac, a contemporary, called monomania.
Which is more than just obsession.
Much more. It's an excessive thought or passion that becomes so intensely focused that it alienates you from normal reality. Balzac actually compared it to the effects of opium or hashish. For Romuald, his desire is so excessive it literally sculpts the world around him, becoming this terrifying yet beautiful hallucinatory reality.
And there's a note in here about egotismo, this idea of 19th century self-absorption.
That's right. The text implies that his love is deeply wrapped up in his own identity. Egotismo is understood as this vanity that drives intense self-constructed love. He's in love with the forbidden image he himself has built out of his repressed life.
So Clarimonde is his own creation, in a way.
She becomes his consuming reality. It's an internal loop. The more forbidden the image, the more intensely he projects his own need onto it, and the deeper the hallucination becomes.
And the tragedy is sealed when, despite all this internal chaos, he has to finish the ceremony. He has to say yes.
It is the moment where social constraint just achieves its final crushing victory. He's paralyzed. He can't cause a scandal, can't disappoint everyone. He just performs the rites mechanically, feeling like he's already covered in a shroud and has sealed the stone of my tomb. His real life begins as a living death.
But Clarimonde's gaze doesn't stop. It becomes this silent poem, promising him everything he's giving up.
Her eyes speak of a happiness greater than God's paradise, of eternal kisses and unknown islands, a total escape. She promises immense luxury, a gold bed, a silver pavilion. She is beauty, youth, life embodied, urging him to reject the chalice and choose freedom.
And then the physical contact seals it.
It's one of the most memorable and chilling details. After the ceremony, she grips his hand, and the touch it's dual. Her skin is cold as the skin of a serpent, which immediately signals the diabolical nature of the contract.
But it burns.
But the imprint it leaves is brûlante comme la marque d'un fer rouge, burning like a red-hot iron brand. It is the inescapable sign of possession, a searing physical imprint on his consecrated body. And then the hallucination gets a real-world address when her page delivers a portfolio. Clarimonde au Palais Concini. The dream now has coordinates.
That physical mark is the bridge to the next part of this nightmare, the dual existence. Romeo is just irrevocably split. He's living two completely contradictory lives at the same time.
The dual life is the perfect literary solution to this problem of forbidden desire. By day, he's the chaste priest going through the motions, but feeling this internal, aridity and extreme spiritual dryness. The real world is just colorless and empty.
But by night,
he lives this somnambulistic double life. He travels, mentally and physically, to Clarimonde, and he becomes a young lord. He's gambling, blaspheming, indulging in everything he's denied himself.
which creates this grotesque reversal, right, where the dream life, the forbidden one, feels more real than his actual waking life.
It's the only way it can work. This somnambulous double allows for the unrestrained experience of pleasure. And the thing is, Romeo genuinely cannot distinguish which life is real. This constant back and forth is deeply tormenting, and it's completely corrupting his spiritual life.
So the first major crisis inside this dual life is the summons he gets. He thinks he's going to administer last rites, but it leads him back to Clarimonde.
And to the shocking revelation of her death. The journey to her castle is immediately coded in the language of nightmare. They're riding black horses at an insane speed like two specters on a nightmare through this dark, cold forest. The warping of time and space signals were leaving the mundane world behind.
And he arrives at this fairy tale palace only to find out she's dead.
Dead after an 8-day, 8-night orgy. A spectacular final act of human excess.
The scene in the death chambers where Gautier really pushes the boundary between the erotic and the horrific. He turns the corpse into an object of extreme aesthetic contemplation.
It's the victory of art over mortality. Her body isn't treated like a decaying corpse, but as an object of petrification, turning to stone. The air is warm and perfumed. She looks like a statue of alabaster, a sleeping young girl upon whom it had snowed.
It's a very perverse way of playing with death, very Poe.
Absolutely. The body, because it's rendered passive and beautiful like a work of art, allows Romeo to possess her without any threat. The funeral shroud becomes a kind of veste sexuale, a perfect erotic garment because it disguises the horror.
And his desperate kiss.
Yeah.
This act of total suicidal longing, it brings her back.
His emotional investment, his willingness to give her his life, it recalls her. A breath mixes with his. Her eyes open. She speaks softly, saying they are now fiancés, engaged. This kiss of resurrection is totally linked to the desiderio di morte, the desire for death, which Gautier sees as the endpoint of all excessive forbidden passion.
So with her as this constant nocturnal presence, Romeo's obsession hardens into true idolatry. Why is that necessary for this forbidden love to work?
Because the love is interdetto, it's forbidden by his vows, and the stronger the censor, the more potent the desire becomes. Idolatry transforms her into an eternal, perfect possession, but this possession demands Romeo's complete subordination. He has to submit to the idol he himself constructed.
And the price of this worship, this beautiful illusion, is finally revealed when we shift from passive death to active horror. The vampire.
The illusion of pure love starts to crack as Clarimonde's health fails again. One morning, Romeo accidentally cuts his finger. The sight and smell of his blood trigger this primal, terrifying response. She leaps from the bed with ferocious and savage joy, showing the animal agility of a monkey or a cat.
So the goddess becomes a beast.
Precisely. Her sea-green eyes, once described as beautiful arrows, now have pupils that become oblong. She sucks the blood with this air of indicible volupty, unspeakable pleasure, and the result is instant. She's more beautiful than ever. She confirms the pact. Her life is in his, and she only needs a few drops of his rich and noble blood.
This is the ultimate narcissistic pulsation, isn't it? Her desire to sustain her own aesthetic existence by literally consuming her lover.
It's the artistic hallucination taking its final physical form as the vampire.
But the final devastating layer of betrayal comes with the mirror scene. It suggests she's been deceiving him all along.
It shatters the last bit of aestheticized love. Romuald sees her reflection in a mirror, which she, as a supernatural being, shouldn't have, and he watches her pour a narcotic powder into his wine.
Oh, wow.
And when he pretends to be asleep later, he watches her weep as she carefully pricks his arm with a golden pin to take his blood. She's not malicious, it's just necessity. She murmurs that since she met him, she despises the rough treatment of other lovers. It's this grotesque mix of affection and horror.
But the moral order, in the form of Abbé Serapion, can't let this stand. He forces the final destructive act.
Serapion sees her as a demon, a ghoulet that has to be physically destroyed to save Romuald's soul. The exhumation scene is just pure Gothic horror. Serapion himself, sweating and panting, feels almost demonic as he forces Romuald to violate the tomb. They find her perfectly preserved, pale as marble, with a single drop of red blood on her lips.
But the holy water instantly destroys the illusion.
It is the catastrophic moment of the return to order. The holy water hits her, and the beautiful body instantly turns into an affreusement form, a frightfully shapeless mix of ashes and calcined bones. The fantastic is defeated, brutally.
But the aesthetic memory persists. It proves that the dream was, in a way, the only true life he had.
It haunts him. Clarimonde appears one last time in a dream, accusing him of breaking their connection by listening to the imbecile priest. She promises he'll regret her, and Romuald, sitting in his colorless cell, admits she was right. The peace of my soul was dearly bought. The story's final moral is a warning to never look at a woman but the narrative. It strongly suggests that the life of color and desire, however fleeting, was worth the cost to his soul.
Okay, so if La Morte amoureuse traps us in this claustrophobic, decadent world of repressed desire, Nuit de Cléopâtre shifts the lens completely. We move to a massive, exotic historical canvas to explore a similar theme: the impossibility of satisfaction, even for a queen.
The setting here is deliberately monumental and oppressive. We're in Egypt. The Nile, the colossal architecture, the arid, somber landscape. It's a land defined by tombs and hieroglyphs. It's hard, massive, and immutable.
And Cleopatra, the ultimate figure of power and self-indulgence, is suffering from the great 19th century malady.
Oh,
Profound boredom.
she is horribly bored, and her boredom is structural. Egypt is suffocating her. It's all somber, enigmatic, incomprehensible, full of monstrous chimeras. She's obsessed with the horror of the mummies, this feeling that the living only exist to preserve the dead. She realizes she's the queen of mummies.
She laments that her status prevents true love. She's a statue d'une déesse, adored from afar, but never seen as a woman. She needs an adventure, a strange, unexpected adventure to break the monotony.
It's a direct parallel to Romuald's need for a rupture. The priest needs forbidden love to escape piety. The queen needs a forbidden, singular sensation to escape boredom. And this sets up the collision with Maimoun, the lion hunter. He is the ultimate seeker of the impossible. He's drawn to the perilous. The text says, L'abîme l'appelait, the abyss called to him.
His transgressive act to get her attention is audacious.
It's spectacular. He launches an arrow, a tool for hunting lions, wrapped in a papyrus that just says, Je vous aime, I love you. This declaration, precisely because it's so bold and impossible, it immediately excites the bored queen. It shatters the inertia of her life.
So Maimoun is captured, and his beauty and his audacity appeal to her caprice, which leads to the chilling proposition that defines the whole story.
She offers him a single night of life in exchange for the death that follows. She literally says her goal is to make a reality of your dream and then plunge you back into nothingness. This is a purely aesthetic transaction. Maimoun isn't a lover. He's a vehicle for a moment of sublime, concentrated experience.
And this single night has to be housed in a setting that reflects the enormity of the experience. The banquet hall has to be monumental.
The scale is essential. It's described as Babylonian, with monstrous columns and colossal sphinxes. The whole evening is framed as a supreme orgy, an attempt to cram all possible sensory joys into a few hours. This monstrous architecture serves as a hyper-aesthetic backdrop that legitimizes the enormous transgression.
And the height of it all is Cleopatra's own performance. She discards her royal mantle and dances for him.
This is the moment where the queen becomes pure sensation. The description is rich with synesthesia. Her movements articulate every human emotion, from ardent passion to uninhibited pleasure, to the point where the modest stars cannot bear to look. It is a transcendent aesthetic performance designed to stop time.
But the structural defeat is inevitable. Dawn breaks. The illusion has to end.
The light of day is the killer of beautiful dreams. Dawn pours into the hall, destroying the red, heavy atmosphere of the orgy. Maimoune understands the aesthetic contract is complete.
And he willingly drinks the poison, falling like he was struck by lightning, which leads to the one poignant moment of human emotion from the queen.
She sheds a single burning tear, but even this tear is contextualized cynically. Earlier, she dissolved a priceless pearl in a cup to show off her wealth. Now she sheds a single human emotion into her cup, symbolically equating feeling with the most extravagant momentary excess.
And immediately, the practical political world just crashes back in.
The trumpet announces Marc-Antoine's arrival, and she snaps back to her political reality instantly. She dismisses the corpse, cynically telling him Maimoune was a poison I was testing to use if Augustus took me prisoner.
Wow.
It demonstrates the absolute brutal separation between her momentary artistic caprice and the political necessity of her life. The transgression lasted one night, fulfilled its purpose, and was utterly defeated by the demands of survival and power.
Okay, so if we step back, we see that both stories, one in a decaying Venetian palace, the other an immense Egyptian panorama, they share the same philosophical core. They both rely so heavily on the visual, the material, which brings us to Gautier's almost Baroque obsession with the power of the object.
Gautier's obsession with objects comes directly from his identity as a painter. He had this powerful drive for artistic reproduction. In his stories, objects are never just props. They are relics of desire, imbued with immense power. They have an archaeological dimension existing outside of time, fixed and resistant.
And this resistance is crucial in the 19th century industrial context, right?
It is. Gautier was writing during a period of intense industrialization, which brought with it the rapid mercificazione, the commodification of everything. Gautier's objects, the elaborate velvet, the gold beds, the intricate jewelry, are described with such minute, sensuous detail that they resist being just merchandise. They're eternalized artistic objects.
They ensure the memory of the dream endures long after the human transgression is defeated.
They're the lasting evidence of the beautiful illusion. They make the dream sensuous, luxurious, and indelible. And this emphasis on the visual leads directly to his masterful use of synesthesia, where the word has to become an image.
He didn't just want to describe the dream, he wanted the reader to see and hear the vision.
Exactly. His use of synesthesia, which is often associated with altered states, is a technical necessity to elevate the experience from simple story to apparition. We talked about how Clarimonde's gaze had sonority, or how Cleopatra's dance music and visual movement blend into a single overwhelming sensation.
What's so illuminating is how his prose style just completely shifts depending on what he's describing.
Oh, it's night and day. When Gautier describes the world of desire, Venice, the palace, the Nile, the orgy, his language is suntuosa, it's luxurious, vibrant, bursting with color and detail. But when he's describing Romuald's real consecrated life, the monastic cell, the old dog, his prose is spent, colorless, flat.
So his artistic power just vanishes when he's depicting reality.
It seems to, and this stylistic contrast just forcefully reinforces his central claim, that beauty and true aesthetic value are reserved entirely for the space of desire and illusion.
Which brings us back to the inevitable conclusion. The ultimate power of transgression and defeat.
It's the ironclad moral structure of his work. Every attempt to make the pure, excessive experience of desire real in the physical world is doomed. Clarimonde turns to grotesque ash, defeated by holy water. Maimoune is an instantly discarded corpse, defeated by political reality. The destruction is the price you pay for the aesthetic indulgence.
The protagonists are left with only the memory, the artistic object, and the consequences.
Romuald is left with a memory that makes his peace of mind feel dearly bought, a constant lament for a life he lost, even though that life was fundamentally impossible. Cleopatra just immediately replaces the human sensation with political calculation. The dream is powerful, but reality is rigid.
This has been a true deep dive into Gautier's aesthetic revolution. We've seen how he consciously moved away from didactic art to focus purely on the aesthetic object, We've tracked his fixed narrative schema, guiding us through the psychology of repression in Romuald and the exotic extravagance of Cleopatra's ennui.
And we've analyzed how the objects and the use of synesthesia immortalize that desire in art, from Clarimonde's petrified body resisting decay to the Babylonian grandeur of Cleopatra's single night. But in both stories, the quest for the true life in the dream necessitates a tragic, brutal defeat by reality.
And we are left with the aesthetic relics, the imprint of the red-hot iron, the single burning care. But the question remains, what was the true cost of this revolution?
And that leads to our final question for you, the listener. If Gautier, the champion of l'art, pour l'art, dedicates his most dazzling work to depicting characters who seek to confront the ultimate taboos, death, forbidden love, violence, only to have that aesthetic rendering brutally defeated every single time by the harsh boundaries of reality, does this defeat not suggest a deeper truth? Perhaps, even in the most dazzling artistic flight of the 19th century imagination, the soul could not truly escape or permanently transgress the moral and social constraints of the very world it sought to aestheticize. Was the aesthetic revolution itself ultimately just a very beautiful yet very tragic hallucination?